Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the least stagnant radio show out there. This is the Velocity of Now. I'm your host, Thomas Sheridan, and the next 2 hours we will be looking in the dark side of things mostly tonight. It's a strange time at the moment. Last week I was in good mood, had a lot of fun doing the Elvis channeling and stuff, but this week has been very dark and very strange, and there's strange things afoot, and I believe that the purple pill move is happening big time now, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, and plus a few other things. I'm going to have Adam from the cerebralrevolt.com to talk about the occult and what I believe are kind of black magic aspects of the JFK assassination, which no one ever really talks about, but I think it's something very real behind all that. My website is www.thomassheridanarts.com. There's a special page I started there called the Alternative Shopping Catalog. It's for people who make nice products and artists and craftspeople and jewelers and authors. And I would, if you don't buy stuff for other people for Christmas, maybe buy yourself a winter solstice present or something. But this is just to support the little guy. At least I'll get something from it while the big corporations are creaming off everyone else. At least you'll be actually helping someone who needs the money and needs the support. I don't get anything from it, no commission. I'm just doing it because I just like these people and I like their products, and I'd rather see small business people, low-key authors and musicians and everyone else get the money rather than the big corporations. So that's www.thomassheridanarts.com. I'm on the Type 1 Radio Network. Steve is back on the controls here tonight, and it was interesting. Today I see another one of the Tavistock dominoes has fallen. The Spanish actor Antonio Banderas has come out saying he also, like Russell Brand, wants a global socialist state, a socialist solution. This is a classic move that's happening now. I've had Donald Sutherland say something similar, and while the American ones like Ashton Kutcher and Matt Damon can't be so quite forward and come out asking for socialism, nevertheless their agents and handlers have given them the documents to read out that people can get all emotional about, superficial about, and follow these Pied Pipers into the purple pill. The purple pill, if you don't know it, is the new reality that they have in front of us. I've done an interview on Red Ice Creations and also one for Lifting Veils on YouTube about the Lord's perception, but basically this reality is being demolished to create a new reality, and we have a front row seat here. The reason why they're getting rid of this reality is because it doesn't serve their business interest anymore, and the second reason is it doesn't serve their political interest anymore. More and more people have woken up in one way or another, and they're not voting. They want them back into the system, and the biggest non-voting group out there that they can capitalize on and bring into the fold is this alternative community. They've identified that there's hundreds of thousands of people on our side who have totally walked away from the system, and they badly want us back in. And how they're going to get us back in is by getting celebrities to actually issue and make statements that agree with your beliefs. They'll allow you to have some conspiracy theory ideas out there that you'll be indulged, you won't be called a nutcase anymore. And the whole purpose is for the London School of Economics to develop, through the Fabian networks, a brand new political system, left-wing parties, definitely in the UK, but also they might appear in other countries. It's already started. My prediction of the Purple Pill Party in England seems to be starting already. Ken Loach, the film director, famous for his movies. So he's made some very good films, but it's more of his recent films, say in the last 30 years or so, have been either IRA propaganda or socialist propaganda. And he's starting a new political party called the Unity Left. I expect to see more of the Unity leftovers, like the Billy Braggs and so on, throwing their weight in behind this party. Whether that's the one or not, I don't know. But it's an interesting development that it happened so soon. So we have Banderas, Donald Sutherland, he's a Canadian, so he can probably talk about socialism a little bit. And then you have the others too. So it's all happening. It's only a matter of time before you have the Beckhams and the Madonnas and all the others you know, they were talking about Kabbalism a few years ago. They were on to Kabbalism. See, these morons don't know why they like this stuff or why they're saying it. They just see the press that Russell Brand gets from it, and then they jump on board. And this is how it really works. They don't care about this stuff. Their handlers say to them, look, Russell Brand got an awful lot of, you know, PR about saying he wanted a socialist takeover, and you're going to get a lot of that kind of thing. And the Hollywood spiritual thing will absolutely tie into that as well. So it's an interesting time. There's been some very strange activity on my website. I've noticed the London School of Economics or somebody from it has been sniffing around it, as some other areas in the UK known for their, shall we say, their status quo protecting nature in the guise of pretend radical and activist groups. They've been sniffing around, and I do wonder if a major takedown is going to come on me soon. Probably one of the alternative political lefty papers have a go at me. They won't take me out. I don't care. I'm not bothered by it. I don't have a criminal record. I'm not a saint or anything like that, but I'm certainly nothing to worry about in that regard. They'll probably whip up old jokes or something like that. Call me sexist or racist or something like that. It's all bullshit. It means nothing because they are nothing. And what happened was I may have demolished, at least on these islands, their purple pill agenda, which was really, they were throwing everything behind the Russell Brand thing. That was to be their baby. That was the one after the success of the Schilderberg Festival down there in Watford, where they all went down to worship their Bilderberg gods in the guise of a happy fun time festival. And unfortunately, everybody who stood on that stage at that Schilderberg Festival has to now be suspect. I noticed some probably decent guys and women who stood on that stage who are not shills, but unfortunately, I don't know why they couldn't see beforehand that the whole thing was a setup to take people's focus away from the Bilderberg meeting. But that's, and all of why they couldn't actually see that people like Charlie Skelton were behind it and Channel 4 and the Guardian crowd. So I wasn't going to be asked. I'm glad I wasn't asked, and even if I would have been asked, I wouldn't have went. The whole thing stank. And I think unlike many people in this movement, I probably have a real insight into what actual protesting is. And let me tell you, it isn't a fucking drum circle. It isn't someone wearing an anonymous mask, drinking a can of beer. It isn't anything like that. Back in 1981, I think it was, I was about 15 or 16, and I had a part-time job working at a place called the Royal Dublin Society, which is a big kind of agricultural and sports showgrounds in South Dublin. Excuse me. And while I was there, it was during the hunger strikes at the Maze. And it was, I don't know if it was after or before the hunger strikers died. I can't remember. But quite a large number of Sinn Féin and nationalist and Republican rioters descended on the British Embassy, which was very close by. And it was on an afternoon, I think it was a Wednesday or something like that. And this is a residential area. At the time, it was mostly in a residential area. And a friend of mine, well, he was my boss who gave me the job. We stood on top of the roof of the RDS and watched the riot happen. And the two of us were actually shaking in fear, because it was nothing like somebody banging drums and going, we're going to have a revolution. Everybody have a revolution. Oh, no, it was nothing like that. It was Irish police literally battering these protesters to a pulp. The protesters picking up, I'm not kidding you, I saw them demolishing brick walls with their fist and pulling. There was so much anger and so much adrenaline that they were pulling bricks out of solid walls and hurling them at the police. And behind the police, in front of the British Embassy, were Irish troops standing there with fully loaded automatic weapons, and their orders were to gun down the protesters if they broke through the police lines. Unfortunately, that day, it didn't happen. The Garda held them back. But what I witnessed from a distance of about 100 yards is something I'll never forget. If you could bottle the emotion in the air that day, it would be like a grenade, just a small bottle of it. And it certainly wasn't anything like what we call protesting now, Occupy and all this rubbish. Now, I'm not saying what happened outside the British Embassy in 1981 was a good thing, but I'm telling you, that's what real protests are. They got pretty close to that stuff in Greece and they got in Turkey during the summer. But that's what the real thing is. It's horrifically terrifying. It's not fun. And the people who are driven to do it, they're willing to die for their cause. They're not going to be sitting there playing drums or listening to a band or having a party atmosphere, while Ben Fellows comes out of his fake kidnap thing and stands on the stage to applause. It's nothing like that at all. So you don't know. A lot of you in the alternative movement, you don't know how fucking dark it is. You haven't got a clue until it visits you. And when you see it, you know how dark it is. Because we live in a world that's run by psychopaths, or at least by proto-psychopaths. And there is no happy New Age ending to any of this. There's no happy Christian ending to any of this. These people are savages. They're savages in our Marnie suits. That's what they are. And Chavez shorts. Savages. But they're not noble savages like the ones you'd have in indigenous people. They're psychopathic savages. Now, what's going to happen is this purple pill, if you don't join the purple pill conspiracy team, which means you're allowed to have a conspiracy or you're allowed to believe in conspiracies as long as you also believe in the distractive psyops of aliens, reptilians, and DMT. Once you glue all those three, you can talk about the banking thing. Once you talk about DMT, you can talk about globalization. Once you say it's alien reptilians behind it. You can talk about psychopaths as long as you say they are interdimensional beings who've walked in. What you cannot say is tell a spade is a spade. You cannot do that. And anyone who does that was going to be savagely taken down because they cannot be bought over. What happened, Bill Cooper, is an example of what they will do to anyone else who will not play the purple pill conspiracy game. They want you to don't mind you talking about all the conspiracy in the world as long as you have aliens, new age bullshit like channeling and all that other stuff and have that in there. This is how dark these people are. And this is where we're going now. So the purple pill will give you you choose the purple pill. You'll be choosing the happy, feel-good, flower children, hippie, good time vibe of, watching videos about alien abduction and how it's linked to JFK assassination. And you'll be all enjoying that. And they'll let you have that, and you can indulge in your infantile, childish fantasies. But let me fucking tell you something. If you don't choose that, you will be aware and you will be subject to absolute fascist totalitarianism. Now is the time to be a person of fucking stature. Are you going to sit there and indulge the purple pill version of it? Or are you going to say to yourself, no, I'm not going to be bought off by this bullshit. I'm not going to be bought off by state-sanctioned conspiracy theory that it has to involve aliens and all this stuff. Now, I'm not saying that stuff doesn't exist, but it doesn't belong with things like banking and so on. What we need right now, more than any other thing, and what you really care, if you don't want to end up like George Orwell's boot stamping on your face for all eternity, more than anything, what you need to do right now is to stand up and say, I am not going to be bought off by this science fiction woo that was sent out to us by the Fabians. I'm not going to buy into it. Eyes on the prize. I'm going to stick with what I know is real. That our psychopaths are running this world on behalf of the globalists. They control the media. They control everything else. And they're the ones. You don't have to tell people. When you're telling people about conspiracies, you don't have to say they're all aliens inside the moon. You can turn around and say, you want proof? Here's absolute proof. Jimmy Savile's protection. They can't argue against that. It's bulletproof. The Gulf of Tonkin, another one, bulletproof. Things like that. They do not want us doing that. They want us going off into the imaginary fantasy land and the infantile dancing around, protesting, waving your little flags, going, please, Mr. Government man, do what I do. Please give me some more freedom, or please give me some freedom, under the guise of protesting. This all has to end. The line has been drawn in the sand, folks. I can see it. This is what's happening right now. And if you really want to stand up for what's right, you'll stand on. And I'm not saying take a side. I'll take my side or take anyone's side. I'm telling you to take your own side. You look into your heart and you look at what the world is like, and then you look at something like the Schilderberg Fringe Festival, and you ask yourself, go back and have a look at the videos of that, and you say to yourself, is that the solution to it? Having a party atmosphere where the globalist savages next door are ripping everything apart? It's safe in the knowledge that you're never going to bother them. Or if you're going to say to yourself, no, I'm not going to be bought off. I'm not going to be bought off by celebrities. I'm not going to be bought off by the truth mafia, as a friend of mine called them tonight. I'm not going to be huddled into one or two truth gurus and have them say everything for me. Now, I'm not saying you can't have your spiritualism, you can't have your DMT, you can't have your interest in aliens. That's good for you. I'm interested in lots of those kinds of things, but they have no place in dealing with an issue like water fluoridization. Things like the pineal gland being damaged by water fluoridization that stops your spiritual growth is the kind of thing they throw in there to make us all look like a bunch of nuts. Stick with the hard facts. Stick with the hard facts you can demolish them with. Now, I know for a fact that if I was to turn around tomorrow and say my work on psychopaths was all wrong, what I know psychopaths to be are aliens from Beta Reticuli who are invading this planet, and they're entering in human bodies, like the Body Snatchers movies, the Invasion of the Body Snatchers movies, and it's part of an alien invasion. I can guarantee you, folks, that I would immediately start selling hundreds of thousands of books. I would be invited to all the top conspiracy cons and all the other so-and-so open-minded and awake festivals. I'd be invited to America to speak at UFO conferences. I'd be put up in the best hotels. I'd be speaking in front of 5,000 or 6,000 people who'd be sitting there hanging on to every word I say just because I attached it to aliens. And there's two reasons for that. One, most people are idiots. Two, I would be getting active help from the intelligence agencies who would be doing everything to have their shield spreading my videos all over the internet, giving them thumbs up on Facebook, on YouTube, joining my Facebook page, sending out phony things saying, you have to listen to Thomas Sheridan. He knows the truth about the alien agenda. And then I could put in the real money shot and then throw in words like disclosure. And there'd be multiple orgasms all over, like all these new age towns like Sedona and Glastonbury. But I won't do that because I know that's not true. What it's like. That's the purple pill. If you want to know what the purple pill would be, if I was to take the purple pill, what it would be me saying something like, yes, all my work on psychopaths is relevant. However, they're aliens. And then I could also follow it up to the saying, but we can cure psychopaths with DMT, with ayahuasca. You see how it works? They've selected a conduit for you to follow in terms of where this should go. Now, the rest of us will be snuffed out. I don't mean that literally like they'll kill us, but they might actually do some serious character assassination to us. So I don't care. I'd rather go down, saying what I believe in than go down a fake and a phony, claiming that they're aliens and stuff like that to get money off gullible people. I don't want the money of gullible people. Let the New Agers and the cults have that. Now, it's here now. It's happening at a very fast rate. In fact, I'm actually quite shocked at what I predicted has begun to unfold so quickly. You're going to see it develop very similar to things like the AIDS awareness thing back in the 80s. AIDS went from being something you didn't dare talk about while gay men and drug addicts died all over countries to suddenly it was a big celebrity issue and everyone was talking about AIDS. And then you had the Reagan administration signing off on all these drugs, mainly because Big Pharma realized there was a big money grab within the whole AIDS the whole AIDS epidemic. The condom makers made an awful lot from it, and so on. You're going to see something similar to this. You're going to see football teams sponsoring socialist ideals. You're going to see all kinds of things like this. You're going to see, that bizarre, cult-like I pledge video with all the celebrities going, I pledge to my president. You're going to see something like that. We live in a dark world, and if we want this world to change, we've got to change in a way that will make it better for all. So yes, the world is a dark place, and what you might see is a montage of a plane hitting the World Trade Center. No, they won't actually say anything other than, and sometimes you'll hear some Hollywood star saying, and sometimes the truth is real, and the real truth is not really there. And then you'll see a montage of the plane hitting 9/11. Now, there'll be no absolute statement about anything, but the montage will be enough to have the purple pill conspiracy crowd running over saying, we're winning, we've changed the world. But you're not. You're just a fish, and they've thrown a hook into a stream. Because let me tell you something, they've been on all the forums, all your Facebook page. They've been listening to all your Twitters. They have been watching everything you do, and they have analyzed you like a lab rat. And they know exactly what you want. And what they know that you want, what you want more than anything else. After all the years of your friends laughing at you because you brought up these conspiracies, of your families, your relationships breaking down because of it. They know that you crave more than anything else is that validation that you are not a nutcase. And so they're giving you celebrities to stand up and say, hey, there's some serious questions to be asked about this instance. What about vaccines? And they know that you're going to get that flood of dopamine in your brain. And they know that you're going to say, look, I'm not a nutcase in the eyes of my peers anymore because so-and-so from some shitty sitcom or some band just validated what I believe. And then all those scientists, the London School of Economics, the Tavistock, the Fabians, the rest of them, they'll just reel you in. And then you're caught. You know why you were caught? The same way a fish was caught, by opening your mouth. So this is it, folks. The line in the sand has been drawn, and it hasn't been drawn by us. It's been drawn for us. They've successfully created that civil war in the alternative movement. You have the ones who've run off to join Russell Brand and his Purple Army. And you have the ones in the middle who are not sure. And then you have the ones on the other side who realise it's a load of bullshit and it's a big psyop. And they're not interested anymore, and they're going to stick with their eyes on the prize. And you want to hear some honesty. You want to hear some truth. You want to hear some real truth. Here's some real truth for you, right? The purple pill people are going to win. They're going to win. They have the power, they have the resources, they have the media. We're not going to win. The ones who reject the purple pill are not going to win. As soon as you realize that, you're liberated from the burden of having faith in victory. But what we can be is an eternal pain in the ass for them. And let me tell you, if you reject the purple pill and you reject the state-sanctioned conspiracy theorists, if you reject the truth mafia, as my friend called them, if you reject the Hollywood stars who make platitudes and statements and shallow, hollow utterances about things that you may have felt embarrassed about telling your friends in the past, you can take that purple pill. But let me tell you, that's a poison pill. That's a poison pill. Or would you rather die an old person knowing that all your time on this planet, from the moment you woke up to the moment you left for the next world, that you stood up against tyranny and oppression, that you stood up for what you believed was right inside, and you did it because you followed your intuition and you followed your instincts and you didn't follow the statements of someone else. I would rather go down that way. I really would. I don't care what the price is. I'd rather go down that way. I'd rather not. I'd hate the idea of sitting there, swallowing that purple pill, watching your JFK alien conspiracy videos, knowing deep down inside and having that gnawing, empty feeling that you had when you walked around the shopping mall with your friends and you pretended you like it. When you went out to nightclubs with your friends and listened to shit music and pretended you like it. And you'll have completely forgotten those moments where you rejected all that stuff, stayed at home and read, say, William Cooper's Behold the Pale Horse, and suddenly the world made sense. And that was the fleeting moment. That was the fleeting moment when that gnawing sensation of I'm not in the right world left you, and you suddenly felt that you were completed in somehow in terms of your destiny. Would you rather have that, even with all the repercussions of being a nutcase, with all the repercussions of being socially on the outside? Do you really want to go to a Schilderberg festival that badly? Do you really want to listen to the stories about how the pyramids were built, by aliens that badly? Or do you really want to enjoy and savor the idea of being a true consciousness insurgent, a lone warrior, a lone gunman or a lone gunwoman who shoots not with bullets but with real intuitive insights from inside your soul, your mind and your cognitive processes, and you live with the consequences? Because I can tell you something, all through history, patsies have been very easy to find. And when you take the purple pill, you'll be a patsy. Now, I'm not telling you not to take it. I believe in freedom. I believe in total human freedom. So if you want to take that purple pill and follow them back into the mainstream, I support your right to do that as a person. Good luck to you. I won't judge you for it. I promise I won't judge you for it. But will you judge yourself? That's the question. Will you judge yourself? So that's what this week has been like, folks. I'm going to have a song now in a few minutes. And after, I'm going to talk about something even darker. That's the kind of show we're having tonight. And the reason is because you do not imagine beings of light, as Carl Jung said. You make the darkness conscious. And when you make the darkness conscious, then you know what the real light of truth is. And the first song tonight is Away by Miss Lucy. Now, it was a wonderful tune by Miss Lucy called Away. Now, I spoke in the first half an hour about, keeping the supernatural stuff away from the real life stuff. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't look at either ones, because I ultimately believe that human psychology and human behavior is the sum total of all human experience, not just what we experience in the material world in a scientific or materialistic sense, but there's real other forces out there. Now, what they are, I don't know, okay? For instance, do demons exist? I really don't know. But what I do know is there is a vast canon of this kind of thing. Rosemary Ellen Guiley, her Encyclopedia of Demonology, if you just look through this book, you're struck by how vast this canon of belief in demonology is. Through all cultures, all through the centuries, until basically quite recent times, the last 100 years or so. I have a tendency to think that the things called demons are more akin to negative traits displayed within sort of human consciousness that somehow manifest, perhaps as a tulpa, into a form or a behavior or what we would call possession. But you cannot ignore the fact that there is amazing stories and eyewitness accounts and evidence even right up to the present, of such ideas. Now, I don't know if there's people talk about the lower astral planes. I don't know if that's all rubbish or if that's real. I don't know if that's real or rubbish any more than heaven. I haven't seen anything. But then, I've been studying the psychopath issue for a long time, and, there are cases that, such as Jimmy Savile, where I say, and like Bill Oddie said, he wasn't human. And I struggled so hard for me to get my head inside what Jimmy Savile was. And the more I look at photographs of him, if there was such a thing as a demon walking this earth in a human body, he would probably be it. But I'm not saying he was possessed by a demon as such. I'm saying that his consciousness manifested these behaviors and these pathologies that we would call demonic possession. We can treat some of these things as temporal lobe seizures. We can look at these things and deal with some of them with psychology and psychiatry. Certain surgical procedures have been shown to stop what they would call possession. But then how does that explain things where movement happens around this person who's possessed, poltergeist activity? We're dealing with very real forces that can be projected outside the human body. And I sometimes wonder if our leaders are somehow like that. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But I'm not saying the psychopaths are demonically possessed. I'm saying that you can have this experience where human consciousness goes completely wrong, and the demon not only knocks at the door, but invites himself in. I'm very interested in tarot cards, and I'm very interested in magic, ritual magic. I know ritual magic is real, not because it's supernatural, but because it's a scientific process of causing change within the material world. That's simply all it is. I wrote a book on psychopaths called Puzzling People, and that was an act of magic. It caused change in the material world. It made me kind of well known, and a lot of people read it. But that was an act of magic. No different than when James Joyce wrote Ulysses, or John Steinbeck wrote East of Eden. However, there are methods of divination that I'm very suspicious of, that seem to perhaps cause what we would call demonic possession, or unleashing psychopathic extreme behavior in individuals and groups. You have scrying, which I find what can happen with scrying is people who are insecure can see things in there that don't exist, and then their mind explodes and they literally go crazy. It's like I always say, some people shouldn't be allowed to wake up. They just can't handle it. They just can't handle it. Like in that film, they just can't handle the truth. No, I don't use tarot cards for divination, because I don't like doing divination, because I don't like imposing a false or a reality, a future reality on myself or another human being. I believe that we all have free will. But I find the tarot cards are fantastic for solving problems because of their pictorial nature, because of the fact that they're images. They allow us to process things differently through our right brain and our left brain at the same time. And they're really, really good at helping you deal with something that's bothering you through a pictorial form. Now, people ask me to give them tarot readings, and I've never ever charged, in all the years I've been doing tarot reading, I've never charged anyone for a tarot reading, and I never will. I won't take money for it. I'll take friendship. I'll take a gift. If they want to buy me a beer or buy me dinner, I'll take that. Even a hug, I'll take that, or a card, or a smile on their face. That's all the payment I need. But some people have asked me to do tarot readings, and I just wouldn't do it for them, because I'd say your personality can't handle it. Because if you see something like the Death card, I know exactly how you'll react to it. You'll suddenly be filled with dread and terror. Even if I go on to explain to you that's not what the card means, I know that's how it will work for you, and I'm not doing it for you. This is why I'm very, very dubious of, well, everyone should be of these sort of fake gypsies wearing the bandanas at the seaside in caravans called, Madam Mystic and so on, who charge, €20 for a tarot reading. I think they do an awful lot of damage to people. Some people wander in there, they'll see the death card or something like that, and they'll freak out. So I don't do them I'll never charge for them. I just do them to help people deal with problems. But I know enough about the person first before when I'll say yes or no. One of the funny things about it is that I can always tell when my women friends are having a relationship crisis because they call me up and ask me for a tarot reading, which is kind of sweet and cute in its own kind of way. But that's just how women are that way. But there's one form of divination that I would tell people never, ever to go near, and that's the Ouija board. The Ouija board is so dangerous. If there was such a thing as a telephone line to the demon world, that is it. Whatever the demon world is, I believe it actually drives people to insanity. Because after a while, when they're actually reading out those numbers or those names, it doesn't matter if the hand is moving them or it's some kind of subconscious impulse. It doesn't matter. It becomes a kind of addiction. That's why many people who are destroyed by who become completely insane by the Ouija board are people with highly addictive personalities, chain smokers, alcoholics, former drug addicts. These people should not be allowed anywhere near an Ouija board. No one should go near it, but especially them, because it just becomes another addiction, and then it wires them into madness. Because that kind of narcissism that comes with addictive personalities, like addictive personalities, I can quit heroin anytime. I can quit gambling at any time. I can quit chain smoking at any time. There's an inherent narcissism there behind those addictive personalities that what happens then is they start to believe that I can quit the Ouija board any time, but it wants me to stay. Now, there's a book by an American psychiatrist, Dr. Carl Wickland, back in the 1920s called 30 Years Among the Dead, in which he studied spiritualism. And he said of Ouija boards, the serious problem of alienation and mental derangement attending ignorant psychic experiments was first brought to my attention by cases of several persons whose seemingly harmless activities with automatic writing and the Ouija board resulted in such wild insanity that commitment to asylums was necessitated. Many other disastrous results which followed the use of the supposedly innocent Ouija board came to my notice, and my observation led me into research into the psychic phenomena for a possible explanation of these strange occurrences. Now that brings us to a story in the Daily Mail from November 22nd, and it talks about the backstory behind the movie The Exorcist. If you've seen the movie The Exorcist, I actually think it's a masterpiece. One of the best movies ever made. They always try to trivialize. You ever notice that? With the pea soup comments and everything. But ultimately the movie is about unconditional love. The movie is about a mother's unconditional love for her daughter, who will do anything to get her daughter back, who's been taken over, possessed by this entity, Captain Howdy, which he was contacting through a Ouija board. And also the selfless sacrifice of 2 Catholic priests and a film director who give away their lives in order to give this child back to their mother. And if you look at the Exorcist in that way, it's an absolutely beautiful film. It's a beautiful film of the resolve of human decency and kindness to save the life of a child. Now, this story in the Daily Mail, 40 years after its release, Tom Leonard tells us it's a shocking real story that inspired the controversial film. When 40 years ago next month, record audiences crammed into cinemas across the world to watch The Exorcist, the consequences were almost as disturbing as the film itself. Some moviegoers fainted or vomited, while others said they wanted to leave but were physically too scared to move. Throughout Britain, local councils banned the screenings. prompting travel companies to offer exorcist bus trips, ferrying people to cinemas where it was showing. Even today, the shocker about the 12-year-old girl who was demonically possessed is routinely rated as the most disturbing film ever made. It truly is, because the 1970s was the golden age of Hollywood. It really was. All the best movies in Hollywood that had anything meaningful to say were all made in the 70s. Among those who trooped to see it in the cinema in St. Louis, Missouri, were two local Jesuit priests, Father William Bowden, and Walter Halloran, who knew better than anyone else that this film was not entirely a Hollywood flight of fancy, for they had performed the real-life exorcism on which the film was based. Last month, 500 Jesuit scholars and Catholics gathered in St. Louis to discuss that extraordinary 1949 case, and the new 49th anniversary version, Blu-ray edition of the film, to be released here next year, has focused attention on the true story of the exorcism of a 13-year-old from Baltimore that inspired it. The boy known as Roland Doe was a bookish only child brought up in a German-American Protestant family. He was close to his Aunt Harriet, a spiritualist who encouraged him to play with, you guessed it, a Ouija board. Within days of her death in January 1949, odd scratching noises started coming from the walls of Roland's family home and even from within his mattress. His parents initially assumed it was mice, but mice would have been able to do what came next, moving his bedroom furniture around and sending objects such as fruit sailing through the air. At school, his desk began hitting other desks, once injuring another pupil. The boy became prone to blackouts and started to become violent and babble gibberish. In desperation, his parents, convinced he was possessed by his dead aunt, turned to their Lutheran church minister. He referred them to the Catholic Church, saying darkly that they know about such things like this. When the local priest visited, Roland screamed at him in perfect Latin, O Sacertus Christi tu sacri me esso diabolum. O priest of Christ, you know that I am the devil. The boy was admitted to the Jesuit-run Georgetown University Hospital, where rumors spread that the priests who dealt with him wore rubber clothing under their cassocks because he tried to urinate on them. A first attempt was made to exorcise him, but was abandoned after 5 nights when he slashed the senior priest down the arm with a bedspring coil, permanently maiming him. It's even more darker, isn't it, than the film when you think about it that way. Roland's parents then moved west to St. Louis, where they turned to another Jesuit priest, 52-year-old Father Bowden. By now, Roland had been an aversion to anything sacred and spoke in a guttural voice. He had moved to the psychiatric ward of the city's Catholic-run Alexian Brothers Hospital. For years, the Catholic Church banned the priest from speaking about what followed. Although author William Peter Batty, great author by the way, managed to unearth enough details about the story to write in his 1971 book The Exorcist, on which the film was based. He replaced Roland with 12-year-old girl and invented such unforgettable touches as the youngsters crawling along the ceiling. Oh my God, I still have the willies when I think about that. Her head spinning around. The book topped the New York Times bestseller list for 4 months. The whole truth of what the priests say they witnessed finally came out in 1978 after workmen demolishing part of the St. Louis Hospital found the original record of the exorcism. You see how the Jesuits hid it? You see, the reason why the Jesuits are brought in is because they know about this stuff. Jesuits are... They have knowledge. They're like the Freemasons of the Catholic Church times a million, where Freemasons are basically a bunch of dweebs and pedos who play at getting off criminal charges by their fellow lodge brothers who are judges. The Jesuits are the real thing because they've nothing to lose. They're directly wired into an absolute and total system. No Jesuit actually goes home in the evening and doesn't be a Jesuit. He doesn't work a day job. They're a Jesuit from the moment they wake up and the moment they go to sleep, and probably during their sleeping hours as well. And these guys have remarkable insight. Now, I know they're sinister, and I know that they have political power and they movers and shakers and stuff like that. But however, they know about this stuff because they've been dealing with it for centuries. The record detailed how night after night over 4 weeks, Father Borden performed the exorcism rite on Roland, while a young athletic priest, Father Halloran, held the writhing boy down. Blotched writing, apparently in blood, would appear on Roland's skin, spelling out hell or evil or sometimes hello, they said. Asked what he called himself, the boy once creepily replied, "I will answer to the name of Sprite." Then one night in April, the boy suddenly cried out, "Satan, I am Saint Michael. I command you to leave this body now." Roland's body went into the final violent spasms, and then he said, "He's gone." The boy never behaved oddly again. He disappeared from public sight and reportedly told the church he remembers nothing of what happened to him. The consensus of some who have studied the case has been that it was probably just a deeply disturbed young man. Yeah, right, sure it is, and we're able to move things around. But the priests involved with the exorcism believe this is a genuine case of possession. Of course, when it comes to The Exorcist, whether it was inspired by a terrifying battle against a devil or a spoiled child having a long tantrum, it hardly seems to matter. As one priest said in St. Louis last month, if the devil can convince us that he does not exist, then half the battle is won. Now, the reason I read this story, other than the fact that it interests me, and I know the dangers of Ouija boards, and the exorcism is just like, The Exorcist is one of my favorite films of all time, is the final line by the priest in St. Louis. If the devil can convince us he does not exist, then that's half the battle won. And isn't that what we're up against? Isn't that what we face when we go and tell our friends about, vaccines don't work and so, and there's psychopaths run the world through all these networks? Remember, they convinced everybody for years that the Bilderbergs didn't exist. And because of people like Jim Tucker, they had to come out of the closet. Suddenly the devil did exist, but he wasn't the devil anymore. He gave you the Bilderberg Fringe Festival. He's your friend now. He made you happy. So the devil never exists for a while, but when the devil is forced out, he becomes your friend. And this brings us back to the whole purple pill thing again. They told us for years that this stuff didn't exist, and now they're letting you have it. So in many ways, what we're experiencing right now in the alternative movement is an exorcism. When you really think about it, that's what it is. It's an exorcism. So if you haven't seen the movie The Exorcist and you haven't read Peter Batty's book, I get them because they're both worth. His book is actually different than the film, but they're both worth checking out. The film, if you look below the surface, and it truly is a horrifying film, and there's beginning of it where it takes place in Babylon. There's an element of whistleblowing about it as well. Remember, the film starts out with the Max von Sydow as the older priest in Babylon. And it's no coincidence that the younger priest was a Greek. He was showing the conduit from Babylon through Greece and into the modern world, which was America. The same evil had passed through until, eventually they found the statue that he'd unearthed in Babylon of the Babylonian demon in the child's room. It just moves on. The film's a masterpiece, and I do hope you watch it. We're going to go a bit early to the song because I want to bring Adam on from cerebralrevolt.com to talk about the occult aspects, I believe the black magic aspects of the Kennedy assassination. So I hope Steve can send the song up now. The second song is This Is a Call by Skin Shape.